Hello, my name's Ray Rumkey. I'm from Hull, born and bred. Went to various places, Winifred Holtby School, which used to be Bransholme High, but I've been teaching here at Wilberforce College, teaching English language A-level for 17 years. English language A-level is a 2-year course. I'll tell you first of all what it isn't. It isn't GCSE English, but a little bit harder. It's a completely different course. So in the first year, you do spoken language, which is something you don't do at school, where what you do is you kind of analyse how people talk to each other. You look at accent and dialect. You learn a whole new alphabet, the phonetic alphabet, which is really fascinating. We look at transcripts, and there's an entire chunk of an exam around spoken language. And then we also look at 4 what we call language issues, which is child language acquisition, which is how children learn to speak. Fascinating subject. From 0 to 4 years old, it's amazing how many words children learn in that time. Language and power, which is about how language is used, not just from the power point of view with government and things like that, but also relationships between like parent and child, or student and teacher and whatever, which is, who speaks most, who's dominant, that kind of thing. Then there's language and situation, which is about how language is used in the real world. So even things like road signs, that's language, and how we get that across. And then standard and non-standard English, which is like English used in different parts of the country, Scottish English and whatever, Black British English, which is really interesting about culture and that kind of thing. So those are the kind of topics we cover in the first chunk of the year. There's also a big section about creative writing. So if you like writing, then English language is the course for you. But it's a little bit of a twist, because what you do is you write stories or pieces of creative writing, but then you have to analyse your own writing, which is a really interesting skill to find out why you write, how you write. So basically that's like the first year. Then in the second year, there's a section called Language Change Over Time, where we look back at how English has changed since about 1600 to now, about how the spellings of words have changed, how punctuation has, which is really, really interesting. And there's also a section which kids really like called English in the 21st Century, which is about English as it's being created right now, and being created by students, by kids, because kids are always creating new slang or whatever to keep us old people out of the loop and whatever, and that kind of enters the language and whatever. And so we look at tweets, we look at Facebook, email, that kind of thing. And then the final section of the actual course is a coursework chunk, which is quite a big chunk. It's 20% of the mark. It's about 3,500 words, but you get to choose it. You get to choose your topic, so you can write about something that really interests you. Well, the thing about English language is that the vast majority of courses and the vast majority of careers have some element of English language in, and some are really, really specific. Like, we get a lot of students who do the course who are doing law, because, if they want to be a lawyer, if they want to be a solicitor or a barrister, the ability to analyse text, to be able to create a speech, to be able to do something like that is absolutely fundamental. And also, a lot of students come and do the course who are doing media. Because the media people need to create scripts, they need to be able to write things in a very concise way. When you're putting together a script for a film or whatever, you can't write acres and acres of stuff. It's got to be really, really focused. And the big thing about English language is it's not like English literature, which is about books and poems and whatever. It's about really technical stuff. It's really, really focused. And so there's just 2 career options people go into. But literally, almost every career you can think of will have some element of English language in it. Having an English language A-level really helps you get onto a university course that may have nothing to do with English language, because it's what's called a facilitating subject. In other words, it's a subject that shows you have a really high degree of technical understanding and have the ability to be really focused and be independent in your thought, which is what universities are looking for. One of the major mediums in this country is newspapers, and I know that a lot of students don't read newspapers at all. In fact, quite a lot of people don't. But they're still a really, really important resource. And so what we're asking students to do is, now they may have heard of a little something called COVID. You might have heard of it. I don't know, it's been around. But I'm asking students to look at some websites, which I'm supplying to them, of the major newspapers in this country, right the way from the really Conservative Party supporting papers like the Daily Express and the Mail, right across the political spectrum to the Daily Mirror that supports the Labour Party and the Morning Star that supports the Communist Party. And what I want them to do is I want them to look at articles that have talked about how Boris Johnson's government has coped with the COVID crisis. Some of them are incredibly supportive of him. Some of them are really not supportive, and it's interesting to look at the words that they use, because that's what English language is all about. How do people use words? How do you know how something is biased? Are they fair about what Boris Johnson's government has done? Are they unfair and whatever? To analyse that. So I'll be supplying, you don't have to go out and buy newspapers or anything like that. I'll be supplying the websites that people can go on to free of charge and find stuff and basically investigate yourself in an independent kind of way to create a short little piece. I've given them a title about analysing how the newspapers have talked about the COVID crisis, the government's response to it, and whether they've been fair and balanced.